Heartwarming night. Black father welcomes unexpected girl. Discover her hidden millionaire legacy. The sun dipped low over the vibrant cityscape, casting its golden glow through David's barbershop windows. Inside, laughter mingled with the hum of clippers, while the smell of aftershave wafted through the air. As David finished up a trim, he couldn't help but let his heart swell with pride. He was a devoted dad, working tirelessly to give his daughter Maya a better life, a college education, a shot at dreams. But every night felt like juggling a circus act, bills to pay, late fees, and the weight of their shared struggles hanging heavily on his shoulders. As he locked up that evening, he heard a soft voice. "Mr. David?" Turning around, he saw Emma. The frail girl, who looked no older than Maya, stood timidly, her big brown eyes fresh with tears. David's heart sank. Her appearance echoed sorrow, losing her mother, and the hushed whispers that always followed her. I'm Emma. My mom, she was your friend." With a protective instinct surging inside him, David stepped forward. "Come on inside, sweetie." He wrapped his arm around her shoulder and ushered her back into the warmth of the shop. They sat on the worn leather couch, surrounded by memorabilia of happier times, photos, and trophies from barbershop battles and the local block parties. It felt right to envelop her under his roof, to breathe life back into the grief wrapped around her. "Thank you for helping me," Emma mumbled, her small voice barely rising above the air. David felt a tightness in his chest. "You're family now, Emma. You're never alone." That night, he found solace in their connection, thinking of Maya and how she would surely embrace her new sister. Days passed, and the neighborhood buzzed with news of Emma's hidden millionaire inheritance. Whispers of riches transformed the air. Some comforted, while others simmered in jealousy. Once, a joyful barbecue turned sour when grumbles about Emma's fortune ignited a conflict. David moved from one small talk to the next, recognizing his heart race with fears. He let out a sigh. What was once a community united by laughter spiraled into division and uncertainty. Emma, wanting to fit in, stumbled into business arrangements she didn't fully understand, inadvertently jeopardizing David's breaking point, a contract that could have solidified his shop. The disbelief swirled around them, confusion and anger gripping the hearts of everyone involved. "Mr. David?" The townspeople were looking, and he could feel the shallow breaths, the weight of expectation shifting. "What is going on?" One voice, Tommy, a longtime patron, bravely challenged him. David knew he needed to clear the air. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. David took a stand at the town hall meeting, the crowded room bathed in anxious murmurs. "Listen up, folks. Emma's future doesn't have to break us. We have the power to unite, to lift one another. So what if she inherits money? She deserves support like any of us." Raw emotion lay heavy on his words. His heart surged, and in that moment, the fabric of their community dangled on a precarious thread. The energy in the room crackled. Would hope and division choose to collide, or was there a chance to rise together? David's battle for family and his community lay before him, and as he stood there, lost in the maelstrom of feelings, the question lingered: could the bond stitched in love survive the shakeup of wealth? David's words hung in the air, charged with a mixture of desperation and hope. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting from him to Emma, a mix of curiosity and judgment written across their faces. The silence pressed tightly down, each heartbeat echoing the tension radiating throughout the hall. Tommy cleared his throat, unwilling to let go of the mounting discontent. "What do you expect from us, Dave? We've been friends forever, but Emma's money isn't just a blessing. It changes everything," he said, bitterness seeping through. David could feel the grip of anger in the air. It wasn't just about Emma's inheritance. It was about the deep-seated fears that wealth might split their community wide open. His mind raced, searching for the right words. "I understand that fear, Tommy. But wealth can be a tool, a way to strengthen, not sever. Let us take this as our chance to uplift each other, to support Emma so she can also support our community." With those words, David hoped to transcend the barriers rising between them. Yet, the unyielding divide persisted. Emma sat quietly, her eyes cast down, the weight of expectation on her frail shoulders. The room buzzed with murmurs, and David felt a wave of protectiveness wash over him. As the meeting devolved into heated exchanges, David caught Maya's eye from across the room. She stood there, steadfast and thoughtful, her brow furrowed. In that instant, he knew she understood the injustice being thrust upon Emma. She moved closer, stepping out from the shadows of doubt. "Emma is our sister now. We can't just look at her like a gold coin to fight over," Maya exclaimed, her voice cutting through the chaos. "She has lost so much already. Let us show her what family really means." Maya's words struck like a thunderclap. Faces turned toward her, and the murmurs shifted from anger to contemplation, the tide beginning to turn. A woman from a neighboring block finally spoke, her voice shaky but firm. "You're right, Maya. She needs us, not our resentment. We either walk alongside her or watch her drown in this," she said, her eyes wide with realization. Gradually, other voices joined the chorus, murmurs of agreement rippling through the hall. David felt hope ignite in his chest. Perhaps they could understand. Perhaps they could heal together. Just as the room began to soften, a loud crash echoed through the door. A group of men barged in, faces twisted in disdain. "What is this nonsense? We're not letting some rich girl change how we live," one of them bellowed, his voice thick with contempt. The air thickened again, and it felt like the ground beneath them trembled. David stepped forward, trying to remain calm. "She is not here to take your place. Emma is a part of our community, just like all of us." But the men merely laughed, their ridicule bouncing off the walls. "Community? This is just a charity case for you now, isn't it? A way to make you feel better about your own failures." David's heart raced, pain flaring in his chest. In that moment, he felt the scrutiny of the crowd, the weight of every gaze reeling in tight. With a newfound determination, he glanced at Emma. Tears brimmed in her eyes, her expression a mix of hurt and hope. "I promise I'll protect you," he whispered, feeling the energy shift yet again. The air felt different, raw and electric, as if a storm were gathering on the horizon. A realization sparked within David. It wasn't just about Emma's wealth or his barbershop. It was about protecting the very essence of community. His voice boomed, louder than before. "Are we really willing to let fear dictate our friendships? Will we let this girl's money build walls?" Silence descended upon the room, the tension morphing into a palpable force. But just as the possibility of unity loomed on the horizon, a tap on the door interrupted their moment. The crowd turned, and a man in a sharp suit stepped inside, a stack of documents tucked under his arm. "I've been looking for Emma," he said, his demeanor suddenly shifting everything. David felt his heart drop. Who was this man? A new chapter was about to unfold. And a question loomed. What did he want with Emma? David's heart pounded as the stranger stepped into the room. The man was tall, his suit immaculate, exuding an air of authority that contrasted sharply with the tension already brewing. All eyes shifted to him, curiosity mingling with unease. Emma glanced up, startled, her fragile expression a mixture of confusion and apprehension. The man held up the stack of documents like a shield. "I'm Mr. Lawson, Emma's legal advisor," he announced, his voice steady. "I'm here to discuss matters regarding her inheritance." Gasps echoed around the room. Emma recoiled slightly, her eyes widening as whispers surged like waves crashing against the shore. David felt a knot form in his stomach. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about everything Emma had lost and everything she was being thrust into. "Why now? What do you want with her?" Tommy demanded, stepping forward. His voice, once laced only with bitterness, now dripped with hostility. "This isn't just another business deal." Mr. Lawson met Tommy's intensity unapologetically. "This isn't about business," he said, his eyes firm. "Emma has a legacy that she has every right to claim. We've come to present her with an opportunity to not only manage her inheritance, but to decide how she wants to use it." "Opportunity?" Maya echoed, disbelief coloring her voice. "Or another burden? She is already carrying so much." In that moment, an unbearable stillness settled over the room. Emma's breathing quickened, a mixture of fear and uncertainty washing over her. David felt the desperation within her, and it propelled him forward. This was it. This was the moment to safeguard not just Emma, but their entire community. "Emma," he called gently, turning to her, "you don't have to do this alone. We're here for you, whatever you choose." Everyone in the room held their breath, waiting for her response. The weight of their gazes felt monumental. Emma swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she finally met David's eyes. I don't know what to do," she whispered, the words heavy with emotion. "I didn't ask for any of this." The crowd's expression softened, a collective sigh of empathy woven into the fabric of the moment. They were all terrified of the change. Yet, change was already knocking on Emma's door. Mr. Lawson leaned slightly, sensing the vulnerability in the room. "I understand this is overwhelming, Emma. You have the power to control what happens next. It starts with your choice." David's heart raced. He sensed an opportunity, not just for Emma, but for everyone gathered there. He stepped closer to her, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "You were never alone in this. Whatever legacy you choose to embrace, we'll find a way to make it work for all of us. You can be our bridge, but only if you want to be." Emma closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if summoning courage from within. Then she turned to Mr. Lawson, her resolve slowly building. "What does this opportunity mean for us? For our community?" The questions hung in the air, and David held his breath. Would Emma reclaim her truth, the light that could guide them all? The moment felt fragile, yet electrified, each person present keenly aware that everything could shift again with her next words. Just as Mr. Lawson opened his mouth to respond, another loud bang echoed from the door, making everyone jump. This time, it was two more men, rough around the edges and just as hostile as the first group. Their faces screamed trouble, and fear rippled through the crowd. Emma's grip tightened on David's arm. Her expression shifted, uncertainty giving way to something else, determination. But in that quick moment, a question loomed larger than ever. Would they stand united, or were they about to face a greater storm? The new arrivals scanned the room, their eyes hard and calculating. David felt the tension sharpen as the atmosphere thickened with unease. Every heart raced, every breath paused. Emma, still holding onto David's arm, began to rise to her feet, the weight of her uncertainty coiled deep in her chest. She was facing something she could no longer ignore, the shadowy figures now spilling into her life. "Who are you?" Tommy barked, stepping protectively in front of Emma, his fists clenched. The unsettling aura radiating from the two men was palpable. One of the men, with scruffy hair and a leather jacket that looked like it had seen better days, stepped forward. "We're here for Emma," he said gruffly. "You should watch who you trust." Lawson isn't the only one interested in what she stands to gain. David could feel Emma's body stiffen beside him. What did they want? Why were they here now, when everything felt so precarious? The dynamics in the room shifted with palpable energy, like a thick fog that threatened to choke out the light. His own instincts screamed at him to protect her. Mr. Lawson straightened, his expression hardening. This isn't a game. If you have business here, you know how to conduct it civilly. Civil? The second man laughed, a gritty sound that didn't carry joy. This is all about survival, isn't it? We just want to make sure Emma understands exactly what she is walking into. David's heart hammered in his chest. He was overwhelmed by the urgent need to defuse the escalating situation. His eyes searched Emma's face, searching for any flicker of encouragement or hope. Emma, whatever happens, just remember, we're all in this together, he murmured. But Emma was frozen, her gaze darting between the two men and the resolute Mr. Lawson. She felt the gravity of the moment, the ever-rising tide of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath it. Let us just say there are other options out there, other paths you can take, the first intruder replied, a smirk crossing his lips. And not all of them come with paperwork. David could sense Emma's breathing quickening, panic radiating off her. He wanted to shield her from the unknown, but she seemed to gather her resolve. I want the truth, she declared, her voice echoing with a newfound fierceness that rippled through the crowd. What do you mean? What options? The room held its breath again, tension mounting, ready to snap. Just think, the scruffy man continued, his tone now sinister, before you dive headfirst into a world with strings attached. You've got choices, Emma. And with those choices, you can either build or destroy. Was there a hint of a threat in his words? David could hardly breathe. Emma's hand tightened around his. The weight of her decision loomed larger than ever. I want to let fear dictate my future, she replied, her voice trembling yet defiant. I deserve to know what I'm dealing with. The second man took a step forward, leaning in close. Oh, you'll know all right. Just be careful what you wish for, princess. As they stepped back, David could feel the energy shift like a storm brewing on the horizon. The open door felt like a gateway to chaos, and he could sense it spreading throughout the room. Emma's expression was unreadable, a mix of anxiety and strength, determination rising amid the fear swirling around them. But what would she do next? Would she confront this new reality head-on, or would she retreat into the comfort of the familiar? The moment hung thick, a whisper of impending change. Their struggles were just beginning, and David knew they would have to face whatever came next together. But would they be strong enough? He felt Emma squeeze his hand tighter. David, but her words were cut short by another loud noise from outside. The faint sound of sirens grew nearer. Who is coming? Tommy shouted. As everyone turned to the door, fear mingled with anticipation. What would this storm reveal? The sirens cut through the tension like a knife, blaring in the distance and creeping closer with every heartbeat. The atmosphere shifted again, from tense confrontation to a bubbling uncertainty. Emma's grip on David's hand tightened even more as she glanced at the door, her anxiety palpable. Do you think they're coming for us? She asked, her voice shaky. David wanted to reassure her, but the hushed conversations around them indicated a fear that was contagious, wrapping around him like a cold mist. Stay back, Tommy ordered, positioning himself closer to Emma, ready to protect her if the situation took a dangerous turn. It was clear that everyone in the room felt the weight of the unknown. Mr. Lawson remained unnaturally calm, though the way his fingers drummed nervously on the table suggested otherwise. Let us keep it cool, everyone, Lawson said, though his firm voice lacked its usual conviction. We're not involved in anything illegal. Whatever the sirens are for, it likely has nothing to do with us. Just then, The first of the police officers stepped through the doors. Their uniforms were crisp, their expressions serious, and the tension in the room intensified as they took in the scene. One officer moved closer to Mr. Lawson, quietly assessing the situation. "What is going on here?" one officer demanded, scanning the group. His eyes rested on the scruffy man and his companion, who shifted nervously under the scrutiny. "We were just having a discussion," Mr. Lawson asserted, leaning into the moment, his voice steady as he attempted to gain control. "A discussion, huh?" The officer raised an eyebrow. "You folks mind if we take a look around?" David felt a flicker of panic rise in him. Emma had needed answers, but now, with these officers here, everything could spiral out of control. Just when Emma seemed ready to stand up for herself, they might all be dragged down into something much darker. "What about those two?" Tommy gestured with his chin towards the newcomers. "They don't belong here. They came in like they owned the place." The officers exchanged quick glances. "And you know them personally?" one of them asked, clearly skeptical. "I just met them tonight," Emma stammered, her voice rising slightly. "But they said they were here for me." David felt a shift inside him. Emma was backing down. There was something powerful blooming within her, something that made him believe she was ready to confront whatever lay ahead if only she could get through this moment. The scruffy man stepped closer to Emma, an unsettling grin on his face. "You don't want to make enemies here, Emma. Some things are better left unknown." Before Emma could respond, the second officer stepped forward. "All right, we're going to need to separate everyone for questioning. No one leaves until we figure out what is going on." Fear and confusion swirled in the room, but David found himself steeling his resolve. He refused to let them take Emma away from him. "Wait!" he called out, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "If it's about her, I'm with her. Whatever is happening, we do it together." In that moment, he saw Emma's eyes widen in surprise, but then they softened with a deep, unyielding trust. The bond between them felt stronger than it had moments before. The officers exchanged looks, unsure of how to proceed. Just then, the sirens outside grew louder still, reverberating through the walls. The atmosphere felt charged, as if every individual in that room was on the precipice of a life-altering choice. "Remember, we are in this together," David murmured to Emma as their eyes locked, igniting a flicker of determination in her gaze that made him feel hopeful despite everything. But who would emerge from this chaos as friends, and who would reveal darker intentions? As the officers began separating the group, one question loomed in the air: who was really here to protect Emma, and who was ready to betray her trust? This storm was only beginning to break. David's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the officers begin to move the group apart. Each step felt like a countdown, a race against time. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger, something dark lurking underneath. "Emma!" he called, desperation creeping into his voice as the officer guiding her gestured for her to step away. She hesitated, her eyes darting back to his, searching for reassurance. "Stay strong," she whispered, the words barely audible over the chaos. Tommy was shoved to one side, his brows furrowed in frustration. "This isn't right. We don't even know what they want." The first officer turned, clearly fed up with the rising tension. "Quiet down," he barked, the authority in his voice causing everyone to flinch. "We're not looking for trouble. Just cooperation." Emma was escorted from the room, leaving David with a feeling of dread that quickly turned to anger. He moved to follow, but another officer stood in his way, arms crossed and unyielding. "You need to stay back, buddy." "Let me go! She needs me!" David shouted, his pulse racing, desperate to reach her. "Not gonna happen. Stay put unless you want to make things worse." Every fiber in David's being screamed to break free, to fight for Emma. Tommy's anxious chatter pulled him back, and he turned to see the scruffy man still watching them with that unsettling grin. The man's companion, a quieter figure who had been lurking nearby, seemed to recognize David's resolve and stepped forward, annoyance flickering across his face. "We weren't going to hurt her," the quiet man said, his tone softer but loaded with implied threat. "But if you two keep drawing attention, you'll put her in more danger. Just play it cool." David's jaw clenched. "Danger? What are you talking about? Let us just say there are some people who are very interested in Emma more than you know. You should stay out of it while you still can." Something in the man's voice gnawed at David. It was intimidating, a warning both clear and ambiguous. What did they know that he didn't? Fury bubbled within him, but reason held him back. Instead, he focused on the officers investigating the rest of the group. "You have to let us talk to her," he explained, catching the attention of one officer who spared him a frustrated look. "Enough. You'll have your chance soon enough," the officer snapped, turning away to speak into his radio. The room grew quieter as the remaining people exchanged anxious glances. It was a cauldron of uncertainty. Tommy pacing, Mr. Lawson still trying to maintain calm, and the others watching each other in fear. This was just a misunderstanding. This felt like the edge of a precipice. Moments felt like hours. Then the officer who had questioned them returned. "Tommy, you're next," he said, pointing at Tommy. The weight of the moment pressed down harder as Tommy gulped, knowing that wherever this led, it would define their night. "David, stay here." "I'll be back," Tommy said, a trace of bravado in his voice, but his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. David nodded, ready to fight if that's what it took, but fear churned in his stomach. Tommy was led away, and David felt the void of uncertainty deepen. What would unfold next? How would they protect Emma from whatever shadow loomed over her? But then he remembered her last glance full of strength and fierceness. She wasn't broken. Whatever was happening, they would get through it together. The room filled with murmurs as someone whispered something about a deal that had gone wrong. David's pulse quickened. Could it be about Emma? He strained to catch snippets of conversations around him, piecing together fragments that offered little comfort and more questions. When Tommy returned, flustered and pale, he met David's eyes. "You won't believe what I heard suddenly." The sirens faded into an eerie quiet, their haunting wails replaced by an unsettling silence that enveloped the room, holding its breath. What had they stumbled into? As the reality of their precarious situation sunk deeper, David couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest storm was still brewing just out of sight. Tommy glanced around, clearly shaken. His breathing was quicker than normal, and his hands trembled slightly. "David, this is bad. Real bad. What did you hear?" David practically pressed into him, desperate for clarity. "It's about Emma. They think she's mixed up in something serious, something criminal. There's talk about a shipment." David felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "A shipment? What do you mean? Is she involved?" Tommy shook his head vigorously. "No. No way. But they think she might know something. They're trying to connect her to all these shady characters. I overheard one of the officers mention something about organized crime." David's mind raced. He couldn't accept that Emma could be associated with anything like that. She was innocent, caught in the crossfire. "We need to get her out of here. We can't leave her to those people." "But how? They're not exactly going to just let her go. And I don't think we can trust anyone here," Tommy said, scanning the room with wild eyes as he paced back and forth. David could feel the panic rising again, but he fought it down. The last thing Emma needed was for him to fall apart. Breathing in deeply, he tried to calm himself. He had to think. He looked over at the group gathered, each person weighed down by their own fears. Maybe there was a way to help everyone, not just Emma, but the whole group. "Listen," he said, voice steadying, "we need to figure out a plan. We all want to help Emma, right? A few heads nodded tentatively, and David felt a spark of hope. He took a deep breath. All right, here's what we'll do. We'll ask questions, talk to the others about what they know. Plus, we need to create a distraction. If we can draw the officer's attention away from Emma, we might buy her time to slip away. There was a nod of agreement from a woman in the corner, her eyes welling with anguish. I can help. I used to work in an event planning company. I know how to organize people. David felt his heart lift. He was stunned by how resilience brought them together, even in dire moments. Okay, great. We'll need your skills. But we also need Tommy to find a way to communicate with Emma, maybe find her whereabouts. Tommy swallowed hard, suddenly looking more determined. I can do that. I've always been good at blending in. Just give me the signal. I'll watch the officer's movements. If they start to move her out, we need to act instantly, the woman said, her earlier nervousness replaced by determination. Let us regroup here, David said, rallying the others, and get a plan together. We do this for Emma. We're not leaving her behind. The mood shifted, filled with a shared sense of purpose, generating a surprising strength among them. Chatter picked up as people started brainstorming ideas. David felt the knot in his stomach loosen just a bit. They were acting, and that felt better than standing around waiting. Time ticked away, but he stopped glancing at the door where Emma had exited. What were they doing to her? Did she know they were working to protect her? Without warning, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, drawing everyone's attention. Voices raised in alarm. David's heart raced again. Had something gone wrong? As murmurs rose, someone shouted, "What was that?" The officers quickly turned, their focus shifting away from the group for the first time since they'd arrived. Now's our chance, David shouted, motioning for everyone to gather close. Get ready. Just as they began to move, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He didn't care, his gut instinct screamed at him to seize the moment. But as he pulled out the phone, he couldn't shake the thought that this chaos might not be the distraction they needed. What awaited them if they stepped out? Could they really save Emma in time? David swiped his phone open, hoping for some good news, but his heart sank when he saw the alert. It was a news update, one about organized crime in their city. The article detailed recent arrests and increasing violence. Each word felt like a stone in his stomach. This was the world Emma was being pulled into. He shoved the phone back into his pocket, shaking his head to clear his thoughts. Forget the phone. We have to move now. His voice broke through the rising panic, forcing everyone's attention back to the task at hand. The woman who had offered to organize them stepped forward, her eyes fierce. All right, I'll lead the way. We'll create noise down the hall, draw them away. Tommy, you stay close to the walls out of sight. Find Emma and get her to safety. They all nodded, each feeling a collective weight of responsibility. David couldn't help but glance back at the door where Emma had been taken. It felt like a lifeline pulling at him, and he could almost see her face, confused, worried, but full of hope when she looked at him. It propelled him forward. As they shuffled towards the door, a wave of adrenaline rushed through David. The hallway was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the walls as they crept closer to the noise that had startled them. The officers were distracted now, their gruff chatter rising and falling, a cacophony of urgency. Now! The woman whispered, counting down with her fingers. David gave a quick nod and they moved, bursting into the hallway. The woman clapped her hands loudly. Hey! Everyone this way! She shouted, her voice strong and authoritative. Surprised faces turned toward them, the officers' eyes narrowing as confusion took over. David felt a rush of exhilaration. It was working. But that thrill quickly morphed into dread when he spotted a police officer starting to pull his radio from his belt. Tommy! David hissed. Go! Tommy nodded sharply, slipping away into the shadows like a wisp of smoke. David turned back to the chaos unfolding before him, willing himself to keep the distraction alive. They needed more noise. Someone shout something. Anything! He yelled, desperation clawing at him. Look out! An older man yelled suddenly, pointing down the other end of the hallway. It's that crime gang they've been talking about. David could hardly believe his ears. Perfect! The officers spun around to face the imagined threat, shoving each other in confusion as they rushed out. The moment stretched on, but he could see Tommy moving through the chaos, merging into the flow and vanishing. David hoped desperately that Emma was safe. He gripped the railing, feeling the metal bite into his palms. Then it happened, a shout from farther down the hall. Hey! You? David's heart dropped. An officer was pointing directly at him. The buzz of adrenaline shifted to a cold wave of fear. Run! He shouted, voice hoarse as the others scattered. He bolted back toward the nearby stairwell, heart racing, knowing they had just seconds to act before they were trapped. Had they failed? Had they made a mistake? As he reached the door, he chanced to glance back. The sight of the officers scrambling after them was chilling. But one thing was clear, they wouldn't give up. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this into a fight for Emma's freedom. His phone buzzed again, but he ignored it. Right now, there were far more pressing issues at hand. But then, curiosity gripped him, and he pulled it out just as his fingers brushed the screen. It was a message from Tommy. I found her, but we have to move fast. David's pulse quickened. Emma was nearby. They were about to turn the tide. He slammed the phone down, determination coursing through him. David sprinted toward the stairwell, the echoes of chaos behind him filling him with renewed strength. Hope fluttered in his chest. Emma was within reach, but would they be fast enough to pull her from the abyss? Could they escape this nightmare together? David burst through the stairwell door, adrenaline screeching in his veins. The stairwell was cramped and cold, the metallic scent stinging his nose. Every echo of his footsteps sounded out a warning, and each breath he took felt heavy, straining against the pressure that clung to him. He glanced at the message again, disbelief mixing with urgency. Tommy found Emma. That flicker of hope ignited something powerful inside him. He had to get to her. The world outside was full of noise, but right now, it was just him and the possibility of rescuing her. Tommy, he whispered fiercely, his voice trembling. Where are you? There was no time to waste. He took 2 steps at a time, his heart pounding like a drum. Memories of Emma flooded his mind, her laugh, the way her eyes sparkled when she was excited, the kindness she showed everyone she met. He could not let her down. As he reached the next landing, a chill washed over him. The door to the hallway had swings open a crack. He peeked through, his heart thumping louder with each passing beat. No officers. No gang members. Just a short corridor lined with flickering fluorescent lights, casting eerie shadows that danced like ghosts against the walls. David stepped into the hall, praying that luck would be on his side. He moved cautiously, every instinct screaming at him to be quiet. He was a tightrope walker, balancing on the thin wire of possibility. And he couldn't afford to fall. Tommy! He called again, more softly this time. The echo bounced off the walls, and for a tense moment, there was nothing but silence. Then he heard it, a muffled voice, strained and frantic. David. This way. He dashed toward Tommy's voice, excitement mixed with fear. Turning a corner, he saw Tommy and, alongside him, there was Emma sitting on the floor, her face pallid with worry, but relief spilling into her features when she saw him. David, she cried, scrambling to her feet. It's okay, we're getting out, he gasped, his words tumbling out in a rush. He quickly glanced around for any signs of danger, heart in his throat, as he approached her. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine, but I heard them talking about moving us again, she stammered. Eyes wide. An icy grip of dread tightened in David's chest. Moving them? Why? He pushed aside the fear and focused on her as anchor in the storm. We have to hurry. There might be officers looking for us. We can't go back that way, Tommy said urgently, eyes darting. There's a group down the hall. I saw them when I was searching for her. A heavy silence settled over them. David felt the weight of all their choices crashing down. Behind them was chaos, but ahead, there was fear. As if sensing the tension, Emma reached out for David's hand, gripping it tightly. I trust you, she whispered, her voice steady despite her fear. His heart swelled. In that moment, he felt a surge of courage. We're getting out together. No matter what. With their path blocked, David glanced down another corridor. A window at the end offered a glimpse of moonlight filtering through the grime. That had to be their escape. Follow me, he urged, determination settling into his bones. They dashed forward, each step bringing them closer to freedom. Suddenly, another voice echoed behind them, louder this time. Hey! Stop right there! David's stomach dropped. They had been found. There was no turning back now. They raced forward, but the door to escape was tantalizingly far. Would they reach it in time? Each beat of his heart urged him onward, adrenaline fueling his legs. He look back. Not now. Emma and Tommy were counting on him. Would he be their hero, or would he fail them once and for all? David sprinted down the corridor, panic driving him in a desperate race against time. Emma's hand remained clasped tightly in his, a lifeline between them, as they dashed for their fleeting chance at freedom. He could hear footsteps echoing behind them, each step reverberating like a countdown to catastrophe. Keep running, he shouted, eyes fixated on the distant window, the beam of moonlight illuminating their escape. Behind them, the voice of the officer grew louder and more desperate. Stop! We need to talk. But David couldn't think about that. He could only envision the sunlight pouring into Emma's world, warming the cold shadows that had taken hold of her life. If they could just reach that window, they flew forward, feet pounding against the floor, the walls on either side blurring into a smudge of gray, urgency clawing at David's throat. Tommy followed closely, his determination matching David's own. Almost there, Tommy gasped, pushing through the fatigue. David felt the weight of their situation pressing heavily on his shoulders, but he refused to stop. A rush of adrenaline fueled him, a fierce fire of hope igniting in his chest. Whatever awaited them outside could not be worse than what they faced inside. Just a few more steps, let us go. David screamed again, now only a breath away from the window. They were nearly at the escape point. Freedom was so close he could taste it. Get down, Emma yelled, and David felt a surge of instinct take hold. They dropped to the ground just as a loud echoing call from the officer filled the space. We know you're in there. The tension in the air felt electric, and David feared the worst, but he couldn't let that fear overtake him now. Now, he urged, glancing back over his shoulder. The officer was too close for comfort. With renewed urgency, they scrambled toward the window, a flimsy hope igniting in David's heart. They reached for the latch, barely able to catch their breath as David pushed the frame open. Moonlight spilled inside like a beacon, guiding them toward safety. In one swift motion, they helped each other through the narrow opening, David's heart racing faster than ever. They tumbled into the cool night air, landing softly on the grass outside as the crisp wind washed over them like a cleansing breath. We did it! Emma exclaimed, tears of joy sparkling in her eyes. Tommy chuckled, though his chest heaved with heavy breaths. Don't celebrate yet. We've still got to get away. Adrenaline kicked in again as they scrambled to their feet. David scanned their surroundings. the quiet of the night broken only by the distant sirens. They needed to keep moving. The streetlights flickered above, guiding them along the road, away from the danger they'd just escaped. "Where do we go?" Emma asked, eyes wide with uncertainty. David took a deep breath, thinking quickly. "Let us head to my barber shop. It's close, and we can regroup there. We'll think of a plan." They raced through the dark streets, each corner bringing them closer to a sanctuary. The familiar gritty tiles of the barber shop awaited them like an old friend. Once inside, David quickly locked the door, the sense of safety enveloping them like a warm embrace. But as they paused to collect their breaths, the weight of everything hit him. "Emma, you okay?" he asked, seeing the mixture of fear and resilience in her eyes. "I'm fine. Just a bit shaken." He stepped closer, pulling her into a light hug. "I'm sorry this is happening to you. You don't deserve any of it." "None of us do," Emma replied, squeezing back. "But you stood up for me. You pushed against everything and put yourself at risk." "I'd do it again in a heartbeat," David said, his heart swelling with protectiveness. "You're family now. We face this together." Suddenly, Tommy broke their moment. "All right, we need to get our heads together. We might have escaped, but we're not out of the woods yet." David nodded, aware of the lingering danger. "We've got to find a way to clear your name, Emma. We need to show everyone that you're not involved in any of this." Emma's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but then she straightened, determination seeping into her expression. "I want to help. I can't just sit back and let them use me. There has to be a way to fight back." "That's the spirit," Tommy replied, a fierce grin breaking over his face. "Let us show them how we do things around here." David felt his heart soar at Emma's resolve. Maybe their truth could pave a way forward, not just for Emma, but for everyone in their community. Together, they would find a way to connect the broken pieces and rise against those that threaten their unity. As the three of them gathered around the shop's table, brainstorming ideas and strategies, David realized this was bigger than just Emma. It was about all of them. They had transformed from individuals into something greater, an unshakable team ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. They were ready to fight for their future. Together. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. You know we want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Spread the word.